Yay, it's just me right now. It's my fault too that we're starting late. My bad. Hey! I take responsibility for this. Full responsibility. But I have a fun story to tell while we're waiting on the other guys because I just dropped the link to them. I played a literal game. Hey! Board Game Trucker, what do you go by again? Trying to remember. First name. I remember from before. There's so many folks have like I know them by what they go by online. Hey, there's Carter. Hello. Hope you're enjoying the hot part of the summer, everybody. So Board Game Trucker, are you in like Kentucky or is it Tennessee? My folks are headed down to Kentucky pretty soon here for some sort of a conference.
Oh my goodness, we're live already?
We are. We're live.
We're live!
I've been apologizing to everybody, and I still haven't told anybody the reason that we are late. Which of course
you're making a list. You're still working on your list of games you played in 2018, right? That's it. You're
no, like the 2018 thing is fine. Like I'm good on that.
Okay.
No, so I've got this. Let me see if you can come up with any guesses here. I have this piece of a Velveeta or Craft single.
Okay.
And it has some very small pieces taken out of it. I just still had this like laying on my computer chair. Anybody?
Usually I find stuff like that when my son's been dragging stuff around. Hey, what? You guys eating this? No. Okay. Can you throw it away?
Hey Trent.
Hey Trent.
I'm explaining to everybody why things are so late, and I just showed this right here, a Craft single. And the next hint is I used this. Not like this is evidence of something. This is part of the process. I was playing a real life version of a board game. Anybody?
Mice and Mystics.
Yes, Mice and Mystics.
Mice and Mystics.
This is my life points right here. Like,
I think I win with that one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good guess there, Trent.
Well, we got some talk about Reef Encounter in our chat, which is the rule books being read, and there's some praise being given towards it. You've played Reef Encounter, right, Trent?
Many times. I like it.
Talked about it quite a bit. It's an auction game.
Yes, and it has a really weird dynamic market.
I played that for the first time this year. It was really good. I liked Reef Encounter.
All right, so I've tried to say enough about this. I'll just tell you guys. So I opened up the door to my basement, and there was a mouse. And
I was right.
A mouse.
It was scared. It was like very scared, but it was also in a strange spot. It was like halfway up the stairs, which is just bizarre. Like that's a tough spot. It was a precarious spot for a mouse. It's like, what? Where did you come from and where was your ultimate goal? But this mouse obviously decided to abandon that goal of ascending the stairs as soon as it saw me. And it just was like bouncing crazy left to right. It was weird. It was like I was watching somebody who had like a cat toy play with it, like play with it side to side on the stairs. This thing was just like kicking up all over the place. And so I was going to come down here and straight up just start getting set up, but I ended up instead setting up a few mouse traps, like literal mouse traps.
My wife and I were playing London.
Ooh.
Hey, that's a nice excuse.
Second edition?
Yes.
Yeah, I just played that last night for like the third time.
I came so close to buying that. It was on a sale recently. What do you guys think, like, differences between first and second edition?
Don't ever get the first. Don't waste your time.
Well, I already have the first, but thank you.
Well, congratulations, Joe. You wasted your time.
They rebalanced a couple of the cards I thought were problematic in the first edition. I like the way the cards work better than the board.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that like they allow you to more easily see who's winning where.
Yes, you can easily tell like all the like south, north, east, west, and also river and not river. It's like real easy to tell with the cards. Whereas on the board, you had to sit there and like and count all the time. No need to anymore. The cards are just a way better way of handling it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, isn't it in a way somewhat like Pax Pamir, the way that they do that with like a separated out map? Cards,
kind of, yeah.
Pax Red.
Yeah, I love the artwork on the second edition. The artwork's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a step in the right direction. I'm glad I have it.
Mm-hmm.
Is Andy coming?
Actually, you know what? I might need to check. I think that he was just saying something. No, it sounds the last thing he said was just a minute.
Well, that's part of what he said.
Would you like to? Actually, no. I don't want to. No, I'm not going to mess with you because, yeah, using some colorful language, in me having to go in and mute it and apologizing to everybody in our. How can you guys do that to our viewers? Right now we've got some chat here going on, and why would we do that? Why would we just insult them?
Because it's fun.
Vulgarity. The vulgarity. Speaking of insulting with vulgarity.
Hello.
You made it.
That's Andy.
Dope.
Andy. We were just talking about how I'm late, and it's because I opened up the door to my basement, and instead of just going down the stairs, like I saw a mouse halfway up, and it was so scared upon seeing me that it bounced around as if somebody was playing. It was a cat toy that somebody was like playing with left to right.
Yeah. On
the stairs. Yeah, stories are always best the second time around, and especially if you say second and hold up third. Oh my goodness. It's a good
as long as you
day.
didn't like scream and shut the door and make Caroline deal with it.
No. I went and grabbed mousetraps, and the only thing that I'm scared of when setting up a mousetrap is like breaking my finger, because that can that's legitimate fear.
Nah, we use them with middle schoolers all the time. Very few injured, except 9-fingered Bill.
Yeah, the one that you drive the magic school bus through because he's too late or too uncool to go with the cool kids.
Like legitimately, the best one ever was we were sitting there in the morning, and I had a student trying to irritate another student with a pair of scissors, and the student that was being the annoying one was holding the pair of scissors by the blade.
Oh, yeah.
Waving the handles in front of this other kid's face. So the other kid grabbed it and
a handle, and yeah.
And no, when I mean blades, I'm not talking about closed. He had the scissors open.
Nice.
Yeah, he went to the ER. Then when he came back for homeroom, kids kept picking on him. They're like, Mr. Dennison, they're picking on me. I'm like, they should. You're dumb.
Wow.
I don't normally do that, but I felt that, in this instance, public humiliation is a learning thing.
Well, Andy, question for you. How has your games of Reef Encounter been going online?
I haven't played many lately. I need to get Merv going and do them again. No,
so I've never heard of Spiel by Web, the one that you guys use for that. Is it just for Reef Encounter, or is it many games?
No, it has a few other games on it. It's like really basic web, but it works pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we need to get some more going again, so I can maybe.
I need to play it in person first, because I still haven't played a real game of Reef Encounter to get the rules.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Just I like the shrimp with the eyeballs, the googly eyes. It's nice.
Yeah. Oh, and they did just get done with Dice Tower Con here recently.
Yeah.
So
no, we need to do more like Reef Encounter so I can stop coming in last place.
Uh-huh.
No, I beat Mer once. I think that was like one game I won out of 15 to 20 or something.
No, it was a mercy game.
Yeah, either that or it's called Holy Crap, the Random Crap. Now, there were things clicking in, but God, that game's hard.
It's nuts. It is very. very. It doesn't look what it is. It's just like, oh, this is cute, and oh my god, this is kicking my butt.
Yeah, online is never the best way to learn like the tools that a game has to wield. Like,
Reef Encounter is not that bad though. I mean, the mechanics aren't hard. It's like trying to figure out how to get everything to go your way in an economic simulation hiding behind in a fish costume.
An economic simulation hiding in a fish costume.
That's basically that's a good description.
Yeah, and little about this game seemed to make sense with the theme that much. I don't know. There's like weird, like you're eating the shrimp that are on tiles and stuff, and it's but yeah. Aside from those weird, bizarre things that there's not really an exact comparison for in any other game, aside from those.
Yeah, it's kind of got that weird Phil Eklund-esque, like we have to use correct names for everything, when in reality, it doesn't freaking matter.
Aha, so you've admitted it.
Yeah. Oh, no, like you can call it a biont here, but I'm like, whatever. It's a half sphere. I know what I'm doing with it. It's all good.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's... I found out the point you're losing Reef Encounter is when you see people start gobbling shrimp up real quick and you're going, oh crap, my plan is not in place yet. That's when you're not, it's not ending well for you.
Well, at least it's ending.
I've been in that place 19 out of 20 times.
Nice. Well, you got the one game though.
The one game.
Yeah. Like Paris, you'll always have Paris. You always have game number 13.
Remember that game? Remember, please.
It's not as bad as that day I was playing computer golf with like my dad and uncle, and as a little kid, I looked up like, look, I schooled you guys. I have the highest score, and my dad's just like, yes, son.
Yay! Speaking of that, I actually just golfed today for the first time in like 2 years. I hit 69 in 9 holes.
Yeah,
that's not good for anybody who's not familiar. But if you're doing the math there, that's an average of like slightly more than 7, like almost 8 hits per hole.
Were you to this level? I went with my father-in-law and wife once, and the father-in-law said he wouldn't take me back to another golf course because I did too much damage.
The only time I did like physical damage, like divots that were like worse than what you should do, is when when they like decided to try to actually fix my swing, and so they're like, hold on, stand here, all right, now swing. It was like, whoa, that's way worse. Like this was broken, but you broke it worse.
Yeah, my divots always flew farther than my golf balls every time I tried.
That's kind of where I was at with it. Yeah,
it was a good time just being out. It was a nice day, and it was a nice way to get. Pretty soon I'm going to be going to a bunch. I'll be doing a bunch of gaming. But yeah. For now, it's at that hot point when we're actually not like I spent so much time during June indoors because it was always raining for us here. I don't know how much it was like that for you all out there in Portland, but I guess Andy and Trent, I'm not sure. I guess with the rain, it's probably a lot worse for you guys because you've got like kids that are like
right down the street was building an ark.
Yeah, but like this month has been nice, and it's like you got to take advantage of that when it's there. So
yeah.
Well, I think it's
getting indoors and gaming. Oh wait, outside. Yeah.
Well, TC, would you be all right with guiding this one on the rails?
Sure, I can run this one to the ground. I don't mind. This is kind of my idea.
If you ran it into the ground, it would just be considered failure to launch. In the
first place. Really? Well, this would be a spectacular explosion on the launch pad.
I thought it would just be considered a normal episode for us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's always that.
Miserably hosted, yeah.
So yeah, okay. So I need to get the show notes up. Did you have that up on the YouTubes?
Oh, sorry. No, here I can just drop you a link.
Oh wow, look at that. Joe and Andy have nothing for reviews. That'll be quick.
Goodness,
honestly,
we did.
Just kick mine for time because life has been insane. I have done crap all for gaming for like 2 weeks. I'll just talk about table battles with you.
Okay.
Cool.
Andy is a Cthulhu Death May Die. The old the cool mini or not game is what you're gonna be hyping.
Sure. Buy something else.
Hey Trent, you there?
Yes.
Have you caught up on your L5R yet?
Yes.
Okay. I'm very broke and I'm only halfway through that dang cycle. Sucks.
Well, they're only half out, so you're good.
I know. Oh, I hate this 6x6. You wonder what I'm going to rant about. Anyway, are we ready to start this mess?
Yeah, just give me 1 second here. I'm gonna slap in a review game.
Actually, don't even remember what I said I was gonna hype.
You've got the Eclipse 2E.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes sense. Oh boy, I usually have this done. I'm gonna talk about the one that Andy will like my review.
What?
Andy will at least relate.
Is Andy sticking with the one he was mentioning earlier?
Oh,
yeah, I already covered that. Don't buy it.
The Cthulhu game, the new Eric Lang.
The expansion that has the miniature that's bigger than his child.
Yes, it's seriously, isn't it like 60 centimeters high or something?
Yeah.
That's like more like 2 feet.
And yet, there's probably more game in the last print and plays I did.
Here is stuff all in our notes on the side there.
Actually, considering Fort Sumter went some 18xx's, I know there was.
While we're going. So anyway, TC.
Yeah,
whenever you're ready, dude.
I know what I'll hype. I just don't know. Just tell me when it's my turn to hype. I got what I'm doing.
I'll just point like the Grim Reaper, the ghost of the future. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to episode 172 of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly. In this episode, we will be discussing our 2018 state of gaming, games we played, games we haven't played, and probably some stuff like we should have been gaming, but we're doing life things and it got in our way. Joining me tonight is, of course, Joe. Say hi, Joe.
Hi.
We have Andy.
Hey.
We have Trent.
Hey.
And we have myself, who once again got volunteered to lead this mess. I don't know how this happens. I'm like the newest member of this crew, but I guess you push the new guy out and point, huh? Let him take all the damage.
Yeah, well, I was the newest one at the golfing today, so I had to carry the cooler. That's, like you got to carry the heavy thing if you're the new guy. So this is our beast of burden. TC Reed, everybody.
Atlas here. Hope I don't shrug.
We're like Sisyphus, which I have a hard time just remembering the difference between that word and then the word that's like the VD.
Okay, we'll let you have that one.
Yeah.
We are sponsored by Game Surplus. Game Surplus is a great place to buy games. The Good, the Bored, and Ugly has a nice little discount code. You go to the website, enter a code, get 10% off. Joe will kindly tell you what the code is, because I can never remember
Good,
it.
Bored, Ugly picks, and you'll be hearing that in the episode in one of the copies that we got. We got a few transitions, a few things that it'll be coming up. But Good, Bored, Ugly picks. And that's where we put our podcast picks. You can get that extra 10% off. Stacks. Stacks with amazing it is. It's stacks. We got fat stacks for you, and they stack.
And they stat and they're fat.
Fat stacks that stack.
Fat stats, a fatty stack. Okay. And thanks Carmen for sponsoring this show. He's a great guy. And go buy stuff. That's all I got to say about that. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the state of gaming in 2018. I know I got some rants. I got some good games. I got some bad games I need to get off my chest. It sounds like Trent's got a nice little list going too. I'm pretty sure Andy's just going to tell me about how he should be gaming in 2018. So it should be.
He's going to teach us all a lesson.
Yeah, I just
tell
woke
us
up.
All how he wishes the world was.
Yeah, I just woke up. I think it was Sunday. Went, we're halfway through the year. We should actually talk about what's going on and what's driving us up the wall and what we've really been enjoying playing. But before we get to all that, let's get to some reviews. Now Joe, you got this nice list here. So let's start with Trent, because he's going to review a game that I actually got to play last night. So go for it, Trent. What have you got for us?
All right, I'm going to talk about London 2nd Edition. London is originally a game designed by Martin Wallace, and it was originally came out from his own personal imprint, whatever that was called.
Tree Frog.
Yeah, that's
Tree
the
Frog,
name of
War
it. Tree Frog / War Frog, which is it?
It's Tree Frog.
Depends if it was a war game or not.
It's Tree Frog, guys.
Okay, so it was recently reprinted by Osprey Games with some notable changes. The biggest ones that I would say is that they replaced the mat board with a set of cards that basically has the same functionality, and they seem to have rebalanced some of the cards in the main deck. So London is basically a tableau building game. This is pretty much a definitive game where you build a row of cards in front of you and then activate them and do stuff with it. That's literally what you do. So in this game, there's basically a small market of city boroughs of London. It starts off with 3 boroughs that are right next to the river that goes through London. And then after that, you randomly replace those as they're bought with new boroughs, and you effectively get yourself in control of some portion of London. The cards give you usually some ability, the borough cards, and they also give you a pretty nice reward when you buy them. A lot of winning this game comes down to buying those. During your turn, you have 4 things you can possibly do. You can either buy a borough with some of the cash you have. You can simply draw 3 cards out of the other deck, which is the main meat of the game. You can build your tableau in front of you. And the way you do this is you do it by discarding a card of the same color and then playing one of the cards down in the row in front of you. You can basically play cards, and you play cards left in any order you want. But what you're going to effectively be doing is building a number of stacks in front of you, and the stacks are really important. Because the other action you can do, the 4th action, is run your city. And when you run your city, you go through and you activate all of the face-up cards that are in front of you. Most of them will turn face down when you do that, but later on you can put new cards on top of them face up, which is all fine. What's important is the number of stacks you actually have. The more stacks you have, obviously, the more things you can do when you run your city, because each card does some sort of special ability. The drawback is every stack you have when you run your city is going to give you a poverty cube. Yeah. And poverty is bad. Poverty is almost always going to be negative points at the end of the game. The way it ends at the end of the game is whoever has the least amount of poverty throws away all their poverty, and everybody else throws away that much poverty. So if the person with the least has 5 poverty cubes at the end of the game, they lose all theirs and everybody else loses 5. And then you count how many you have left, and you score it based on this table, and they're all negative, and it gets worse and worse and worse. The first couple levels are like -1 point for each poverty cube, but then it's like beyond that, it's like -2 for every poverty cube if your number's very high. Then -3 if your number's really high. If you have a lot of poverty cubes, you're not going to win. It
accumulates pretty quick.
Yeah.
Not only do you get poverty for every stack, you get poverty for every card in your hand,
yes.
And as a new addition, you get poverty for every 10-pound loan.
Yep. You get this game has loans. At any time you want to, you can just take a loan and get $10. And then at the start of your turn, you can pay back a loan by paying $15. However, if you have a loan in front of you and you run your city, every loan also gives you a poverty cube. And then at the end of the game, if you can't pay back your loan with the money on hand at the end of the game, the remaining loan is worth -7 points.
Per 10-pound loan, by the way.
The point of this game is rough. This game does not give you a lot of money to play with. It's very Martin Wallace-ish. It is not, you might be able to build one, but it'll cost you. You might be able to build a really nice row of cards, but it's going to be mean. The cards have a lot of variety. I felt that in the 1st edition, there were a few cards that were kind of overpowered. They have definitely been toned down. Omnibus has been toned down. It is toned down. Yes, the Omnibus is not completely broken like it was in the 1st edition. There was a couple others that I definitely am pretty sure they've been tweaked. I think a few have even been nudged up in power level, and everything feels more consistent and reasonable and sane. Whereas in the 1st edition, I felt like there was some stuff that was wrong. So that's a big improvement over 1st edition. Other big improvement over 1st edition is that in the 1st edition, all of the city cards, it was actually a board. you had a board that indicated all the boroughs of London, which is fine, and that sounds kind of nice and everything, but it came with the problem that was that some of the cards activate based on the traits of the regions you control on the board. So whenever you'd activate one of those cards, you have to stop and start counting regions. Like, how many of them are Riverside? How many of them are in the north section? How many of them are in the south section? And so when you have to sit and like count up on the board. With the cards, you just splay them and you can count the symbols like almost just at a glance. Way, way, way better user interface. It just works so much better.
And you can see if they're like river near the river or not. It's all concise right there on the card.
Right at a glance, though, right next to each other, boom, you know. It's very quick. I can't say enough high things about London 2nd edition. It fixed some of the issues I had with the 1st edition. My wife and I were literally just playing it right before the podcast. In fact, we stopped our game early so I could get up here and record. We were very near the end, and my wife and I actually tied on. I wanted tiebreakers because I had more boroughs. That was the tiebreaker. Highly recommended game, though. I liked the first one. I really liked the 2nd edition.
Well, the fact that you can play 2 players right out of the box is big because the original was like 3 to 5, and you had to like scour Board Game Geek for that 2-player variant to make it work.
Yep. This one plays 2 to 4. It's great. I really like it. The only thing I can say is some people might complain is the price tag, given the fact that it's a card game. It's really just a card game is all this you're going to find in the box. And some people might grumble at that, but I didn't really have any problem with it. I think it's perfectly good game. The cards are really nice card quality stock. The art is really well done. It's a good game. Well worth playing. The box is nice. It doesn't separate. It just folds open. It's a really nice box. Yeah, the rule book is concise and clean. Yeah, it is such a. You know, I was playing this last night, and I'm like, this is like one of the best tableau card games out there, at least now. And I was like, why would I want to go back to playing something like Terraforming Mars when I've got London? You know, it's kind of that's what I was thinking, but that's just me. If you like engine building games and you like games that just aren't like who can lay the most broken card, and you actually have to think about it, and there's some pushback from the game, and it's not easy, you're gonna like London.
And it's mean; it can crush you fast.
So I mean, you'll have turns where you run your city, and it feels really impressive. But you've invested a lot of turns to get to that point, and you probably flipped over a lot of cards, and it's not going to happen again.
Yeah. And then you gotta go start all over from scratch going, okay, who discarded that? Okay, oh crap, I draw a popper. How do I get rid of this thing in my hand? And yeah, a lot going on in this one. I like it.
I really want to try the 2nd edition of this one. I've enjoyed my plays of the 1st edition. Like I said, I'm one of those sad people that's still holding on to their 1st edition. Like, this is all cool. And anyway, I'm sure that my first play of the 2nd edition is going to make me go, yeah, 1st edition's... I don't know. I already know it has issues, but there was nothing else out there that did exactly what it did. And now there's something that does what it did and fixes the problems that I was aware of. So, yeah.
Have you played this one, Andy?
No, I have not.
You should.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be up my alley.
Yeah, it's a mean tableau builder, and it works well for 2. And
it plays fairly quick. We played ours in like 30, 45 minutes.
Oh, wait. No, minimum 2-hour game for me. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll play it twice. Okay, well, let's go on to Joe. Joe, what have you got for us?
Oh, I'm going to be talking about one that I played first with Andy, and that is called Pixie Queen.
Was that Pixie one?
Yeah. The theme of Pixie Queen is just like everything is negative points, and the Pixie Queen's an awful person who hates you and hates everybody, and specifically wants to penalize you every single round. And if you end the game somehow in positive, it's weird. It's ridiculous, and I don't even think it's possible at the higher player counts. So we did play a little bit of a higher player count game of this. So we played with 4, and I believe it can it go up to 5, Andy, or is it just 4? Okay. So, but playing with 4 felt like there was competition over, and there was impact of what players were doing. So basically what the Pixie Queen is a resource management Euro type game where people are going to be placing workers to take actions. You've got action cylinders, and it's one of those where if you take certain actions, you'll use a single cylinder. If you go to a different place, you'll need 2 cylinders. So the amount of turns that you get is not necessarily fixed. you can end up with, as the game goes on, players will be promoting a separate piece that's not like the worker. It's not like the action pawn if you've ever played Dominant Species, or just like your worker. This is a different sort of a piece that will start in the mines at the bottom of the board, and the board is like tiered, sort of like a big pyramid. And the lowest tier of that pyramid only takes one upgrade for you to like try to promote your worker to. But now that action, whereas it normally would have cost 2 workers for a person to go there and take whatever action it is that you've been promoted to working in, now the actual cost of that is only 1 piece. But that's not. It's regardless of whether or not it's your worker that goes there or another worker, another player that goes there. It's like it's only going to benefit whoever goes there. So like, yes, I've got my guy stationed in this spot, but like that just makes that spot cheaper for all of us. And if somebody else goes there, it doesn't really help me out at all. However, you're going to get some income every round based on where you have your workers stationed. And the main way you're going to score points in this game, aside from acquiring resources and then turning those resources into things that get you points, which there's 2 ways to do that. The other way is by totally promoting your top guy to the very top of the pyramid, and then that can only happen once every round, and that gets you a bunch of points. So there's not many positive points in this game. It's mainly like you trying to negate the negatives that are already coming in. So you're trying to sort of take away, like you're going to be scoring a -8 points every round of this game at the beginning. And so until about round 2 or 3, almost every player is scoring -8 every round. And you just keep on scoring -8. And you get to certain thresholds when you're going down in points. And as you hit these certain thresholds, you have to then lose another worker, like fire or demote one of your workers that's already working.
Back to the mines.
Back to the mines. And it's like you're doing bad, so the game makes it worse on you. And that's kind of, I would say, like, in general, like, that's what differentiates this from other Euro games, is that there are sort of knives to fall on. And one of the biggest ways that this game has that is that every round, the queen wants a specific resource. Out of all the resources in the game, which there's like 3 main ones, she wants one specific resource, and everybody blind bids, but you don't have to bid that resource. You only bid that resource if you want promotions. You might want to move up on the other charts. There's like some, what do they call it? Like some sort of upgradable
Gold and
abilities.
silver.
The gold and silver tracks you can move up,
Yeah.
and they make it easier for you to convert things into gold and silver, which then leads eventually to a way for you to more efficiently get victory points. But anyway, the main thing that you're doing at the end of every round is blind bidding. And if nobody, just by chance, like nobody actually wants to promote any of their guys, and so nobody gives her what she wants, then you end up with no promotions whatsoever. Nothing good happens. However, all the punishments still happen. So like, we're going to skip the bonus phase and instead just get the vinegar. And that's what I would say the theme of this game is salt and vinegar. And if you feel like that's what's missing from Euro games, if you feel like, oh my goodness, the negative points I got from Agricola, the begging cards, all that stuff, I want that to be something where we're all taking begging cards and we're all doing terrible. That's the way Pixie Queen feels. It's most close. I can only think of like 1 or 2 other games that are like this, and that's like In the Year of the Dragon is like this. It's just like the onslaught, and you just gotta like, who can weather the storm the best. I would say Pixie Queen is not quite as much of a storm that you're fighting against, so much as there's a few like pretty big swingy pitfalls where you can take risks and they can really work out against you. And very rarely are you going to take a risk and have it not feel like, oh, I just barely squeaked by. You know, like you're never going to feel like you're doing well in this game. So, and I appreciated Pixie Queen. I thought it had some interesting and kind of quirky wrinkles on the tried and true worker placement. The way that points are acquired in the game is really restrictive, and I would say that's maybe the most troubling thing that I find with the game is just how difficult, like how specific and difficult points are to get. There's really like only 3 different awards that are going to be given in any given round, and it's just it feels like. It's one of those games that moves at a bit of a slower rhythm for gaining your points because there is so few points to go around, especially in 4 players. Like in every round, there's going to be at least one player that does not achieve any victory points. You know, the only victory points they can achieve would be like mitigating some of the negatives that are coming. So, I mean, I think with 4 players, it felt like there was some nice competition. And overall, I would recommend Pixie Queen towards people who are looking for a really, you know, a game where it's really negative. It just feels like there's so many negatives involved that it's like that's the theme of the game. It's like today in math class, we're learning how to add negative numbers. And that's Pixie Queen in a nutshell.
Yeah. And it's subtly dark. Like any area that's negative points, the symbol for negative points is a whip.
Yeah.
You decide what thematically that is.
I think it actually gets Andy excited for us to linger on this topic. So unless anybody else has anything to say.
All I'll have to say is I've been looking for this one. I always keep I have a copy of In the Year of the Dragon on my shelf just because I like to shake up my Euro gamers who like safe Euro games. Oh, it's a Feld. I like Feld. Let's try this Feld game. Oh, okay. Is it like Castles of Burgundy? Yes.
Sure, just like it.
Just like it.
Dragon, it's such a great game though. You know, like there's a lot of variance between rounds, but like it's such a great game. Like it's like it lets you see the agenda for your punishment at the very beginning. It's like these are all things that you've seen since the very beginning, and can you possibly weather the blow from all of them? No, and that's what makes it such a ride. It feels like you're just losing your grip the whole time. And Pixie Queen is like when things are working fine, things feel fine. It just feels kind of like we're all getting negative points. I don't feel that bad that I took -5 this round because he took -7. You know, it
should be noted too. There's some player interaction in there too, because there's a spot you can go to where you steal resources from somebody, and the resources you steal are the resources they got at the beginning of the round. So you just be like, your first action could literally be, worker here, Joe, just give me everything you got at the beginning of the round there for that. Yes, because I know you have it. Or there's another one where you just roll a dice and it can just be 1 to 3 penalty points. You can just give to anybody. Just be like, I'm giving 3 penalty points to you because you screwed over my promotion last round and you're a jerk, so I'm doing this. Yeah,
you can directly interact, but you have to kind of choose to do that. And
That's right.
But I get it. Like, you know, it's there for if people want to do it. It seems a little silly when somebody takes that action. Like what does feel weird about this though, Andy, is I feel like most players of this game at some point, at least of the 4 of us, at some point we were like swimming in the resources in the game, right? We just had like a ton of them, and it's trying to like leverage like, okay, well, if I convert these into these, then I can go here and convert these into these and then convert these into points. You know, and I can do that once or twice every round or something.
Yeah, you have to be careful if you're swimming in the resources, though, because at the end of the game, if you have the most, you get penalized more because you were hoarding from Her Majesty.
It's almost like this is that you describe 1862, and I've never played 1862, but you describe it as like everything that people do to like make mistakes and screw up and misunderstand and get themselves into pickles. Like all the pickles from 18XX, it's like they took those and just designed a game that's just based around like the pickles that people find themselves in. It's just like a bunch of pitfalls. And I feel like that's what Pixie Queen is. It's like, you know, like you're getting into a game that, you know, like where an aha moment where you're like, I don't quite understand this game. And the person teaching you is going to be like, well, because of this thing that you did that you didn't really understand, you're taking a buttload of negative points and all kinds of things. Oh, and by the way, did I tell you this game hates you?
I even like the rule if you accidentally bid the wrong kind of food, there's no take backs. It's like, no, you just get -3 points for ticking off the queen. It's like, oh, that was a mistake. I meant to bid apples. Could I go back and nope? Here's 3 points.
You just suck. Which I mean is relevant because if you have no resources of the type she wants, you're actually forced to still bid something.
Bid something.
And if you don't have any gold or silver, then you're bidding the wrong thing and you're taking the punishment.
I feel like you're royally screwing up if you've done that bad. It's not that hard to get what you need.
Wow, sounds like this is right up your alley, Andy. A game that hates you.
Yeah.
My ideal game night, I said, would be to like start with this as an opener, play like Age of Steam, and then like maybe a game of Antiquity.
Or just play 1/3 of one game of 18OE. That's like your ideal game night.
1/3? No, 18OE is too nice.
Okay.
This is called the game night that makes you hate yourself when it's done.
Well, let's move on to my review here, because Andy, you're going to help me out on this one. So I got a chance last night to play, was it table battles? Or table ties? Is it just table battles?
Table battles.
Okay. And Andy, I think you and Joe are actually hyping this one a bit. Mm-hmm. So one of the guys I game with says, "Yeah, I had this game. You want to try it?" I'm like, "Yeah, bring it. Let's get this out." Because I hear the guys I have podcasts with, they just like say this is really great. So he brings this game out. It's in this little box, and he opens it up, and it's cards, sticks, and dice. And I'm like, I'm going to kill you, Andy. What is this crap? What is this?
Dude, I've seen worse than this for Andy.
So, so it's designed. It's a Hollandspiel game designed by Tom Russell. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay. And we broke open the rule book, and surprisingly, it was like a big picture and 3 pages. Like, okay, this shouldn't be too hard. So we set it up, we play it, and I got hosed, but it was really surprisingly good. And the first thing that went through my mind was, I've played a lot of garbage mini games, a lot of garbage miniature games. And I'm just playing this thing going, my God, you just put some historical minis on this thing, and with this battle system, this would be fantastic, like Cromwell and your our infantry and all this stuff. And we played like 3 or 4 games of this thing, doing the different scenarios.
It's like 20 minutes or less. You can bang them out.
And essentially what you're doing, you have one action, and you roll dice, and you place dice on these cards, and on your action, you remove the dice to perform the attack on the card. And it usually says which, the army tells you which you have to attack and where to go and what it can defend from. Super easy, super streamlined, fantastic little filler game that you could literally play all night if you want. I was really impressed with this thing. The only thing the only thing that would just kick this thing over the top was like some little historical miniatures would just make this thing fantastic. Because I'm telling you, I played a lot of garbage mini games, and this system blows them away. Like, easily blows it to pieces. So a very pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the recommendation. And I'm telling you guys, do not judge this one by the way it looks. When I opened this up, I thought really going to be throwing sticks at each other or building little railroads or something. Oh, look, lightsaber battle. Right. But yeah, surprisingly good. And apparently, I'm not too familiar with Hollandspiel, but you can get this. But when you order it, they actually make it when you order it, right? Is it like print on demand?
It's print on demand. They keep a certain surplus of the wooden bits they send to the publisher or the printer. The printer does all the cards and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. And I was looking at this designer, and he seems to, I can't remember what else he's designed, but he was looking at it.
Pacific. He's done several Winsomes, a few war games.
He's all about streamlining stuff. What the other titles I've seen, and making things streamlined and straightforward and easy to play. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Hollandspiel is right up there. I'm looking forward to Ribbit whenever Mark Herman's game gets published through them. There's a few other games.
Card game about World War I.
Yeah, there's a card game about. There's some
really crazy
cool stuff coming up from this little company.
Yeah. And a couple things to add about table battles, because this kind of comes as you play it a little bit more. But like as you said, each unit tells you kind of what you can attack. And it took me a while to realize what they're doing there is essentially that's representing the map.
Yeah.
This formation was next to this formation. And then the thing that's really cool is, so you do your actions, then you roll your dice to set up your actions. So that creates this really interesting situation of the player then, when they're setting up their dice, they can look at what you've just done. Okay, you're going to do, so I'll counter it with this, this, and this. And then it goes back to your turn. You're like, okay, so you're counting, therefore I should respond with, and then finally it's up to someone to go,
we're just doing it.
Someone has to do something here.
Yeah, because the reactions, you have to do the reaction. If I read the rules right, like if you attack, you have to, and that's your action for the turn. So you can set up where I do this, you react, that's your action. On my next turn, I have this set up to like just hammer you right back. And the really cool thing about this, I think is absolutely brilliant, is the morale system, those little black cubes. It's like every time you beat an army, you take some morale. And you can actually like win the game without defeating other armies just by taking their morale cubes.
Yeah, in fact, that's how it's usually going to end, because if you like out an army, like it takes 1 morale, and you usually only have like between 1 and 3 of these cubes. So
that's not a lot.
Yeah, no, it comes to a conclusion pretty quick. The one thing I've noticed about Tom Russell games is people will complain about his games being unbalanced, but in reality, they're balanced on a knife edge. So as soon as it leans one direction, boom, and then it's done.
Yeah, we had to play a few games to I was like, well, that seemed like this guy's really overpowered, like Cromwell. When we played Cromwell, just we put any amount of dice on this thing. But yeah, we played it again and I lost, but that's when we started figuring out, like, because there's one of the armies has a star on it, and that's like 2 morale if you freaking take
key units.
Yeah.
And there's also, they try to do about 1 a quarter or 1 every 2 quarters expansions. And the expansions add new units and battles, so it's like a system. So you've got all the wood bits already in dice, and the expansions are themed. So the second expansion, which I have right now, is themed around the War of the Roses. It's all the battles from them.
That.
And for the first 2, a guy was cool. He went and like wrote out a little booklet you can do that has all the history of the battle, because that was kind of missing. And then the newest expansion is the Age of Alexander. And they're actually supposed to be bigger battles, like have more units, more to work with, that kind of thing. And they actually have text of the battles and the units on there.
Yeah, the only thing that we had to replace was we couldn't keep track of whose dice were which. So we bought a set of 6 red dice and a set of 6 blue dice. Right at the store we were playing, because we keep getting them. Dice were flying everywhere. We didn't know. Hang on. Here's 6 blue dice. Here's 6 red dice. I spent like $1.50. Okay, we fixed that problem. Get rid of those things.
Yeah, but even that's not necessary. The most you get is 6. So in most cases, it's not an issue. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it as a little filler game. There's some really cool tactics to it. I really like how sometimes people will pursue. So if they actually defeat an enemy, it's like, oh, you lost your army and I lost mine because they ran off chasing the
they ran off chasing them. It's like, bye-bye. Just chase them over the hill. Like, hey, guys, come back. Are you kidding me? Bye, thanks. And then you can also like choose to retire and bring up another
you won't
army.
Lose morale when they die. That's right.
Yeah, but that's a whole action. I mean, that's a big. You got when to pull that off. You're like, oh, I can retire this, but then my opponent's gonna like get me 4 hits on me if I do that. But
yeah, the game really is about tempo. It's about controlling the timing. That's how you win or lose.
Yeah, it's like one single action can tree down to like, well, I'm going to use this action, and then you spend your action doing a reaction, and then my next action is a reaction to your reaction, and it can kind of like, you get to where a lot of times you get to the end of one of those like the trees, whatever it is, that you sort of like resolution trees, and you figure out that like, the person who started the combat in the first place had already figured it out down to this point,
And what's really interesting about the whole thing is like, I can see people complaining like, oh, the dice makes it random. I'm like, no, the dice makes it strategic. So it's where you put those things and how to execute your dice tactically. That's going to, get the game going, because when it was like almost like playing like a Welcome to Centerville, where you like roll the dice and you're just staring at them going, I can allocate this in like 8 different ways. I got to figure out what is the best way to do it.
Yeah, there's a skosh of randomness in it, but it's definitely the better player is typically going to win.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's a big thank you for me.
Yeah. What about Trent? Have you ever got a chance to try table battles yet, Trent?
Yeah, I played it a few times. I played it with Andy, and I played it with my son. I like it. It's a nice filler, nice quick filler. It's got some good choices in it. It's pretty much what you'd want in a filler. I mean, it wasn't like my favorite game ever, but it was one I would definitely not turn down, especially given how quickly it plays.
Yeah. I mean, you really got to use your imagination, I would say. So was your son okay with it?
Yeah, he actually liked it quite a bit.
Oh, nice. I mean, just the cards are just like font. That's it. There is no
numbers.
there is no art in this game really. It's like the artwork is just box art.
He's apparently required also to make a dinosaur expansion by his wife.
It fit right into the catalog.
Yeah.
It'd be like one of those. Isn't it like Tom Vassel's? One of his favorite games is like Duel of Ages 2, and I'm pretty sure that doesn't get much attention from anybody else. So
well, what's funny too is in the newest expansion, there's a elephant unit, and it actually says on it, if you're playing his wife, elephants can't be killed because she likes them.
I love it. That's great.
Funky rules, yeah, like dinosaurs. It's gonna become the smash up of
Hollenspiel. I'm okay
I'll
with
take
that.
Napoleon and Julius Caesar. Boom. Okay, I got a Napoleon Caesar deck. Let's go.
And I'm gonna take the lolcats and
the zombies.
Yeah, the zombies.
It needs zombies. The mandatory zombie expansion.
The one where they just keep on fishing cards out of the discard pile. The zombies.
Yeah.
Card fishing out of the graveyard.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are our reviews. Good stuff there. Again, thank you for the tip on table battle. That was quite the nice surprise. So that's going to segue into our discussion. Going to be talking about 2018, our games we've enjoyed so far, our disappointments. So I guess I need a consensus. What do we want to talk about first? Want to talk about? You want to save the worst for last, or talk about what disappointed us right off the bat, or how do you want to approach this, fellas? Trent's got a list. What's on top of your list, Trent?
As the one I liked the best, or the one I hated?
What's on top? What you hated or what you liked?
I listed the ones I liked first.
Oh, let's go there first. Okay. See, there you go. Trent leads the way. We're going to talk about games that we played in 2018. Now, they don't necessarily have to be published in 2018. We put that caveat in there for Andy because he couldn't talk about his favorite 18XX game if we didn't do this. So we're going to talk about our so far, halfway through the year, the games we've enjoyed most about in 2018. I've got about 2 or 3. How about you, Trent? How many you've got?
I have 4 that I liked, and I'm going to I stuck only to ones that have been published in 2018.
Ooh, I don't think I even stuck to that because I'm usually a little bit behind when I actually can afford to get games and then find the time to get them played. So let's start off with you, Trent. What do we got? What's one of your top? Because I know you don't believe in actually numbering them 1 through.
No.
Just give us one of your top games of 2018.
Okay. The first one I had listed was Rising Sun, which is hands down my favorite game that Cool or Not has ever published. I don't even hesitate to say that at all anymore. It's basically, the more I play it, the more it feels like diplomacy to me. I understand exactly what they were getting at when they hinted that it was diplomacy. Basically, this looks like a dudes on a map, huge miniatures game, but the actual gameplay functionality comes down to negotiating with other players to let them use their abilities. You want them to convince other players to let you use their abilities, and then whoever does that the best will probably win this game. And it involves, like, you have to think very carefully about it because there's a large conflux of different player abilities going on. Each player has a default player ability, and you're drafting player abilities during the game. But if you can sit down and think them out a little bit and then negotiate with other players and get the most meat out of that negotiation, that's how you win this game. And I love how it's done. It's not like you're sitting there and like being cutthroat about it. You're usually, most of the negotiations in this, you're talking about how you're going to both mutually benefit from it. It's like, it's really nice how it's done. But the funny part is, even in that, there's people that later on realize that they were duped.
Yeah, you end up realizing like you're benefiting way more from this relationship than you are, than I am.
Like, I got these 2 coins and it's going to be great and we're both going to use these abilities. And then like 30 minutes later, you're like, no, the other dude got way more value out of this than I did. And that happens a lot in this game. That's what this game is about, and it's great. I love it like that.
Did you get like all the Kickstarter junk that came with this?
Oh, I got all kinds of crap.
Do you play with everything, or there's things you like to use or prefer to use, or things you would never use? Or
I have found that I like it best when The biggest thing I don't like is I take out some of the monsters. I kind of don't think all of the monsters need to be played in every game. I think the Onis, sometimes they just get to be a little bit much. So I usually like randomly choose a few of them to be used each round. And I let all people always look ahead and see what's coming in the future rounds if they want to know. I'm not 100% sure that the factions are 100% perfectly balanced, but in a game like this, I think a lot of it comes down to player negotiation anyway. So you can it's about recognizing that some factions are going to use their inherent ability better than and get more value out of it than you are. That's part of the game. That's what this game is. And so I don't think strict faction balance is that important in this game. So the biggest thing I have taken out, I basically play with everything, but I take out some of the Onis almost at random at the start of the game. I don't play with all the big monster dudes because I think it's overwhelming.
Yeah, the thing that I found it the only being able to pair up with because you have to like pick someone else and that's who you ally with. I'm kind of iffy on that. You know, I like to wheel and deal with freaking everyone, but it works for this game. I'll give it that. My biggest complaint is I've played it, and I'll get into this in my disappointment section, but I can't get all the cool stuff anymore without paying a fortune, and it makes me very sad. But we'll get to that later. So, what do you got, Joe? What's one of your games?
In 2018, I feel like for me, 2018 above all else has been like a game of still just cleaning up from all the 2017. Like there was
like every year.
So many things come out towards the end of the year, and I feel like they're all, packed around like the holiday season, following Essen, and we just hardly get any time. And so, like, I don't know. For me, I'm finding that I'm going to say that for me, it's Terra Mystica coming back into my life. This
was that because of Gaia Project?
Partially, yeah.
Okay.
So Gaia Project is one thing that keeps me coming back to the system. I want to be able to play Gaia Project, but the best thing that I can do when I'm not, like actually at a game night, and Gaia Project was one of the games where like you played at a game night and you're not playing many other games.
Yeah, that's it.
In like an evening, and you're talking like 2-3 hours, depending on familiarity of players and just how like intense the competition is as well. But what's happened is online, the site where I generally do the most of my online gaming got Terra Mystica recently. And so Gaia Project has sort of bridged me back into this classical Terra Mystica. So I know it's not got a 2018 release, but it is 2018 is about, I think it was within this last 6 months that it hit the UCATA, yucata.de, which is where I do most of my online gaming just because of how stable that is. How like it's so stable. Like there's like the game only communicates with the online server occasionally, whereas like at Board Game Arena, which I love Board Game Arena for so long, but like so frequently I would get logged into Board Game Arena, and because it's constantly sending back and forth, like, it's just like on all the time, it would like consistently have like anomalies where it would be like, please refresh your browser. Please refresh your browser. I feel like I was always refreshing my browser. I'd be like, oh man, this person is taking forever to take their turn. It would be like, please refresh your browser. I'd refresh the browser. It'd be like, they were waiting on me to take my turn that whole time. And I just like, I lost all the time that I had to take my turn because, my connection wasn't working. And so like, I like, I guess that for me, a lot of my gaming time that I'm playing is like sneaking minutes of a game like Terra Mystica online, but I'm finding that like the exploration that I can do with a game that's just like that level of strategy is ridiculous. Like there's so many factions to play. There's so much there. Had we never even had Gaia Project in the first place, it's just such a massive, box. It's like a box full of Legos for heavy Euro gamers,
Yeah, it is.
Gigantic. And Gaia Project is even better. If given the opportunity, I would play it over Terra Mystica anytime. But Terra Mystica is, it's still scratching that same sort of itch, and I really do enjoy the online playing that I've been getting to do. So we should all get a good Board Ugly game playing online. Check out our guild and join in with some of us have already started playing with each other, playing like Reef Encounter, as we've been talking about. There's a lot of different places you can play different board games. We can get a game of Terra Mystica together now from I think there's 3 different places that offer Terra Mystica. You can get it on the app, you can get it on Board Game Arena, which just blew my mind. I was like, why would Board Game Arena have it and Yucata have it? Which Yucata is now the newest one. So that's
I do have Through the Ages ready to play with you, Joe. I downloaded that finally.
Hey, we need to get several games Through the Ages going on. We got this. We got to make this happen. It's already come up in our chat once here, in our live chat. Through the Ages has come up. Yeah, we got to get some games going.
Oh, we'll make it happen.
Oh, good. They're my resources.
What about you, Andy? What have you played so far this year that has just blown you away?
John Company.
Oh, of course. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably.
Have you played the full campaign yet?
We did, but we died at round 3. So
nice.
The sad part is though, I looked at everybody. I'm like, because round 4 or 6 is when the Monopoly Revoked comes into play. I'm like, I'm gonna turn over that card, and it's gonna be Monopoly Revoked. If we made it one more round, we would have been safe.
And it was.
Yeah, and it was. I turned over the card. I'm like, told you. That's how that works.
So despite all the heartache, it still brings you back for more.
Oh yeah, no, I love that game. There's consistently, I look at a pile of yet unplayed games I have, or even games I've played, and then I just kind of look over and see John Company and Time of Crisis, and go, you two are my favorite children.
You're my friends. I even upgraded the dice to British dice, or the one's a British flag. Nice. So you're we succeeded in shipping. I got the one. Look, cool. I got some. I've blinged this thing out. Yeah, it's.
I took the little hammer from one of my kids' rock digging kits and put it in there for a gavel.
So it's still getting you. Do you have a regular group of people you're playing it with?
Just off and on.
Yeah.
It just depends on at game night who's in for that kind of game. There's some people that like negotiation. There's others that don't. And yeah. Then I make them play Pixie Queen. I'm like, we could have been doing John Company. We could have been all nice.
Yeah, I've discovered with this game, you want to have a dedicated group of people to play it over and over and over again to really get into the nuances.
Yeah, I put a notebook actually in my game so I can write down how we got destroyed and what I need to not do in the future.
Trust the other person. Usually that's what happens when you get destroyed.
Oh no, if you start with loads of people in the shares, cause a situation that kicks most of them out quickly so you don't die horribly.
Yeah, so you're
yeah, you can't keep up with them dividends, man.
You got to get them out and get your own people in there. Yep. Oh, yeah. John Company. That is definitely one of the top games I have played so far. I keep going back that one. And it's crazy because in that little box, and I got bigger games, I'm like, oh, but there's so much goodness in this little box. It's good.
Yeah, that game that's a unique little beast. So.
Yeah. There's not many games like it. And man, I wish it's one of those games that I wish was available, because whenever I play it, I could recommend people to pick it up. Because everyone I've played that with is like, actually wants a copy so they can dig through the rule book to figure out what's going on. Because they get smacked around so hard, they're like, no, hang on, make sure you're doing that right.
And then you're like, no, it really is that nasty.
It's that mean, yeah. It's Cole.
Look up Cole Worley. Seems like a nice, wonderful person, and then makes you hate your life in games.
You want to play him again. So for me, one of the top games this year that I played so far actually wasn't published this year, and that's Colonial Twilight. This by far has been one of the more impressive coin games that come out. I was very skeptical of it because it's 2-player only, but the way they implement that system with 2 players using that little baseball diamond's brilliant. And it was one of the few games I played this year that actually made me think about the actions I was taking as being ethical. Where I can kill these guys, but I'm going to kill my own people to do that. So essentially, I'm sending my guerrillas out to martyr themselves to kick out these French troops. That's the best move. Dang. Oh, and look, here's this event card that says torture on it. It can be executed by either side. So you're looking at I'm looking at my wife saying, do we really want to go down this slippery slope where we start torturing each other? And she's like, I don't want to. And she grabbed it. I'm like, okay, it's on. We got the little chit out, and that game just took a whole different turn. It is the way it handles its subject matter, the art. It's fantastic. If you have ever played Coin and you're familiar with the system, this one takes it in unique directions. It's challenging and on many, many different levels. It's a conflict that I was not aware of, but apparently it was one of the conflicts that started the whole Coin system of conflict, the counterinsurgency. So yeah, fantastic game. If it's up your alley and you like Coin, definitely try it out. It's 2 players, so you don't have to wrangle 4 people or take a 4-player game and play 2 factions apiece. Brian Train, I think, did a fantastic job with this one.
Or if you want to do solo and not have to control 3 bots.
Yeah. I think the
I've
solo.
heard a lot of people love this one solo because
I think the solo you control the you don't control the government. It controls the I can't think but you control the insurgents. But yeah, I've read that. Flowcharts scare me, so I haven't tried it yet. But from what I've read, it's really good. But as a 2-player game, I think it's up there with like Washington's War and Twilight Struggle. It's really good, and if you get a chance to play this one, I highly recommend it. So that's my mind, Colonial Twilight. Trent, what have you got?
Oh, you may name my next game?
Yes.
My next game I want to talk about is Feudum.
That big monster Euro game with the funky artwork. Oh, I can't wait to hear about this one.
Yes. I had a conversation with someone about it, and the way I described it was, this is 80% of my favorite game of all time, and 20% just what the hell is going on.
That's exactly how thing I've heard said about this game. So
that's exactly how I feel about this game. It's like parts of it are brilliant and fantastic, and parts of it you're just going like, what? How did this happen?
It's like a Vital Lacerda game that has Concordia in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So
imagine Vital Lacerda game where one of the side like elements of the game is basically a game of Concordia. That's kind of a good description.
Yeah, I've heard this is very polarizing. And people either really like it, or there people like literally. I've seen people walk away from this game while it's being played.
It's not like I don't know. I mean, yes, you can attack other people, and it's like totally deterministic. So there's like if you see a big invasion coming, like there's a lot of times you've already kind of made your choices for the round, and there's little you can do. So maybe there's that sort of frustration happening. But aside from that, it shouldn't be. I mean, that would be a player problem.
Yeah,
you know?
From the one I've heard the most of is either is more on the lines of people feel that like there's something there, but it's not worth the learning curve.
Yeah, I've
and then
heard
they
that.
walk
Yeah,
away from it. And then there's other people that are like, it's totally worth the learning curve. So I think whichever side you fall on, it seems like it's not a game that's going to produce a whole lot of, just middle ground of like, it was an all right game, but I could play it again or not. Like,
it's definitely
you either make the investment or you walk away.
Yeah.
The gist I got.
You're going to have so much invested in it that you're either going to be frustrated because you don't feel it was invested wisely, or that it deserved it. I can see that. But I don't know, like to me, this seemed like it had a simple core that was kind of mind melting to emerge from as a kernel, like that at the start of every round you have 10 action cards. You're only going to choose 4 of them, and those are the 4 actions you're locked into doing. There's a little bit of play within that system. There's some kind of like hinges that you can grease, some ways that you can get out of, there's like a ×2 card where you can play a different card. It's, but it like requires you to do a lot of upfront planning and then execute, as the round goes on. You'll find that things do change based on the way that other players take their moves and stuff. So I don't know, to me, like it seemed like a cool core idea with a lot of interlocking systems that you also needed to understand, though they might not seem like that big a part of the game. It's like you've still got to learn all 6 of the different guilds and how they work and how they move from one to another and how the whole guild system in and of itself works. It's really a game that's about like essentially controlling these guilds while you're playing a pretty slow and deliberate map, map spreading game like Catan or Concordia or something. So I for one want to see this one played much more to decide really how I even feel about it. But I think Trent, your current thoughts
feels pretty strongly about it, right?
I am definitely in the positive camp. The weird parts of it are just like it did things that I didn't expect, and there are times of it where the correct move this is something I like about games, and this one does it. There are times in which I'm sitting at the board and the correct move is completely not clear to me at all. What I should be doing next is the best move. Most games I play, I usually have some sense of what at least a good move is, if not the best move. I played this twice, and there's been times in both games where I'm sitting there and like, I legitimately don't know what the best thing to do is. Not even like I have no idea. It's like, and it's not that it's opaque, it's that the mechanisms are so weirdly interlocked. It's a Vital Lacerda game is what it feels like to me.
Where you like pull one lever, rip off like 8 things down the road. Like,
it feels like that to me, yes, very much. With a lot of player interaction, yep. So I like it.
Oh, this is definitely one I want to hit the table. I'm just waiting for someone to actually want to bring it out. But the more I hear about this, I have to be honest, the more I'm intrigued with. Especially when people rage quit. I'm like, this is one I definitely want to try out.
Well, I think that, and from what I hear, the biggest impediment to play is that a lot of people are fine playing Feudum and want to play it, but there's very few people that want to teach
it. Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah,
because of just how engrossing and how much there is to it. So it's like one of those ones where it's like, if you wanted to do it right, you'd like find a good tutorial and be like, everyone needs to watch this before we sit down to play.
Oh, well, good call, Trent. I'm assuming you kickstarted this too and got all the nifty expansions with it.
Yep.
Have you played with them yet?
The second game yes, I played with a couple of them. The second game we played, we started off teaching, and then we decided to stop and restart it. And then when we decided to restart it, the sadist at the table decided we needed to use the expansion where you have 16 action cards and you choose the 11 you're going to use in the game.
So you're like, let's just play the hardest game we could.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, we need to use this in the. Oh my goodness! It was just like no one has any idea what's happening. Or what
don't even know what you're doing, and you're trying to like make really big important decisions right to start the game.
Yeah, it was just like, well, maybe this will work. We'll try it.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. Excellent. So that's Feudum. Joe, you have anything else you want to talk about? Are you out?
Oh, with me? No, I did want to say, like, I noticed, I mean, I really don't have a specific game because, like, when I look through it, all the games that have been released in 2018, it's like so few of them have made it to me, and I haven't like really had a chance to play. Like it's the one that I am seeing though, like I'm extremely excited about, I guess I should say. Are we going to have a special segment for that?
I think we have.
We have a special. We'll have a special Joe segment.
Oh yeah, I don't know, man. I'm kind of bending it here. I guess the game I'm really excited to look. Well, another trend I'm noticing is just like taking an older game and then trying to like maybe update it. I feel like I'm seeing this happen a little bit where, and I'm sure that's not just like it's not a 2018 thing. It's just that now we've got to the point where even 5 years ago, games that came out, 3 to 5 years ago, it's like, oh my goodness, in the last 3 to 5 years, so many things there's so many revolutionary ideas that have been sweeping across board games and causing people to support things, like there's specific types of content that make people feel like they're getting more game for inside a box. And I feel like one of those that's a really good example is Endeavor Age of Sail, which I thought was this cool game. and I enjoyed it when it came out. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was really a cool system, but it did feel like there was just, it was a nice system that never had anything more to do than what was in that box. Like every single token in the game is going to come out in every game, and everything's going to be an option. The only difference is like where those tokens show up. And I understand like the core of the gameplay is changed enough for every game to feel super, super different. But like there isn't that extra added, spice that goes on top of it. And I guess maybe spice is one of the ways that you can play Endeavor Age of Sail, but they added like these new sort of modules that you mix together, like 3 of them I think you're supposed to play with, and they're all like, okay, you're playing the game in which this specific situation, like you're playing the East India Trade Company together with this other trade company, and like in this time period with this specific industry. And I think that's really kind of a cool thing that I'm excited about seeing in 2018. So yeah, this thanks for letting my segment be kind of flexible.
There you go. How about you, Andy? You want a flexible segment, or you got something you want to talk about?
Well, let's see. Other big joys I've had. Not a lot. Like a lot of it's just continuing to play new 18xx games. Oh, the one I played this year that's really neat, I need to play again and get nasty with it, is Union versus Central, which is an absurd game that should not exist. Because it's basically 2 decks of 90 cards. And if you play the short game, you're talking a good 3-hour commitment. And it's basically laying train tracks using different resources logistically that you can move around. But then when we played it, we since me and the person playing it were like both kind of trying to grok the system, we decided not to be like to punch each other in the balls. But the next time we play it, we were deciding, yeah, we need to play this right, because oh my god, it's awful. Like the things you can do to each other. Because it could just
Andy, like, Andy likes that. That's a positive thing.
Yeah, well, no, it's great. It's like, oh look, you built that nice little railway in the mountains. Landslide. Oh, you lost your rail in the mountain. Oh, I guess you got to move all those resources back over there again. It should not exist. 2 decks of 90 cards. You go through doing god awful things to each other while trying to maneuver cubes around yourself. But that is something to consider. If you do something horrible to the other player, then that's not something you're not doing to help yourself as well. So it's a balancing act on that. But yeah, 2 decks of 90 cards. The short game is 3 hours. If you play the full game, it's a 10-hour card game of 2 decks of 90 cards. It's insane, but it's a winsome game. So what do you expect? But yeah, it was a lot of fun where we were just looking, like the other guy and I were just looking at it. We would draw our hand of cards, go, oh God, that would be horrible to do somebody.
How do I do it?
Yeah, well, we were just kind of like, do we really want to start down this path? Because we know it's like, it felt kind of like almost an Infamous Traffic or some of the other games like that, where you can play it nice, but as soon as somebody goes for like the jugular, it's a race to the bottom. Like there's no reason not to be god awful to each other at that point. And so we got done with it in about an hour and a half instead of 3 hours, but that's because we weren't like wrecking each other's sandbox the whole time. But yeah, it was really neat and interesting, and I do want to try it again. So anyway, yeah, Union versus Central.
Sweet. Well, one of my top games I played this year, so I was quite a surprise. Just when I thought I was done with Yahtzee-style games, here comes Chad Jensen and says, here, hold my beer. And that is Welcome to Centerville. Welcome to Centerville is a DICE re-implementation of sorts of Urban Sprawl, which is probably one of the most divisive games I've ever played, ever. But what Welcome to Centerville is doing is you're building a town and you rolling dice and you're allocating these dice in different ways to get victory points. And your victory points are either money, wealth, or prestige. And in true Reiner Knizia fashion, it's the lower of these two scores that's going to be your end score for the end of the game. So you're trying to balance these two, figuring out how to balance these two, figuring out how to utilize these dice you're rolling and how to counter what everybody else is doing at the table. I have never AP'd out more rolling dice than I have on this game. It presents itself as a family-friendly game, but man, once you start digging in this thing and getting favors, you can really start hammering people. I've had people almost flip the table on me when I split in the prestige to just build over one of their buildings just so they can't get the area control over an area of the city. It's vicious, it's fun, and it's definitely a game that you have to play more than once to figure out how this thing scores. Because while the rules are fairly simple and they're all on the spreadsheet in front of you on how everything executes, until you see how the game scores and how this game works, you're going to lose. And once you figure out how this thing works and how the dice work and how to allocate them, it's a heck of a lot of fun. This one almost came out of left field for me because I didn't think we ever see any type of follow-up to Urban Sprawl the way that game was received. That's a very pleasant one. It's very family-friendly, and it definitely is like, I think this is as heavy as a rolling a dice a certain amount of times can get. I was kind of curious if this was actually going to be on your list, Trent, because I know you've talked about this one quite a bit.
It was not on my list.
Oh.
But, however, I think it was a 2017, so that's why I didn't even look at it.
Oh, well, I just got it this year. Like I said, I'm a little behind on what I play.
I did like it, though. It's my favorite Yahtzee variant I've ever played. It's got a lot more going on than most Yahtzee variants.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that because, you know, one of the biggest complaints I've heard about this game is like, oh, it just takes too long between turns, and there's literally nothing for you to do between turns. I'm like, dude, if you do not pay attention to what other people are doing when they're taking their turns and you're asleep at the wheel, you're going to lose this game. You have got to be engaged on everyone's turn to see what they're doing, how to counter it, and how to get your crap points up and get other people points down. I don't remember which review I listened to where the guy was saying it was just, there's nothing to do between turns. I'm like, are you kidding me? You have got to pay attention to what other people are doing. So that was me. That was Welcome to Centerville by Chad Jensen. Trent, what have you got?
My third one I'm going to mention, I'm going to kind of cheat and just mention a game that I've been having a lot of fun playing with my kids, and that's Stuffed Fables. I will say this much. If you have one or preferably two between, I'd say 7 and 9 is probably the good target here, maybe 7 and 10. This is a really, really good game to play with your kids. It's has an engaging story it's a really engaging, thoughtful story. The story's one of the best written ones I've ever seen in games in terms of a children's story.
Awesome.
The gameplay is really straightforward, especially in the first few things, but it builds as you go on. It actually gets significantly more complex as you go on. But it adds things like it'll add a new mechanism, and then you'll play like 3 or 4 pages of that mechanism so that it's really familiar before it adds a new one. But by the end, you realize you're actually playing a pretty mechanically heavy dungeon crawler, I guess would be the right way to describe this game. Because the game is basically a large spiral bound book, and each page on it is like a small level of a dungeon crawl game.
Yeah.
And like one of the pages is basically like the rules for this page and then a lot of story. And then
it's super easy to set up because it just uses a page. Like you're not like, that's the biggest time that you can lose people's interest. If you've ever tried playing like a story-based game and you have like a transition where you need to set up, imagine if you're like going to see a play in the concert, and then in between scenes there's a scene change and it takes 15 minutes, you know, and it's like this happens frequently throughout the game, you know, like that's no longer a scene change. That's turned into an intermission. That's turned into let me go grab a sandwich while you set this up. And I feel like what Stuffed Fables has really acknowledged is just how the game needs to be like so easy to set up that like your kids can kind of like, you know, or your younger players can like sit there, look at the board, which is a giant book, and then just see like, okay, this is going to go here, this is going to go here, this is going to go here.
So, I think someone owns Mice and Mystics. Which one would you recommend?
Mice and Mystics would skew a little older.
Okay.
But you said this one's got a better story than Mice and Mystics?
Yeah, I feel like Mice and Mystics is closer to a pure dungeon crawler, And I think the story in this one's better. It's better written. It's written for a younger target age, but I think it's better written.
It doesn't. I mean, it has a lot more possibilities of like where you might end up, and there's like kind of a transition between, you know, like you've got your sort of movement based ones where it's like you're trying to get from point A to point B, to like you've got like a specific, you know, like objective based stuff. Like it seems like this one mixes quite a bit like of formats to make sure that pacing is pacing. I've heard that it's pretty intricate.
I don't know what you mean by pacing.
Like the pacing of the game is in like you're gonna go from you know, like this game that you play right now, like this session could involve you first of all assaulting a bed, you know, to like kill whatever is underneath the bed or on top of the bed, and then the next game after that is like, okay, you've fallen into this land and now you're trying to really quickly get from this point to this point, you know, and the enemies are not that big of a deal. And then the next thing after that is like, well, based on what you did there, now you're either you know, like fighting enemies on a tramway of some sort versus like you're actually trying to sort of catch up still. So like whatever, like the gameplay adjusts to sort of give you little interludes to catch your breath between when it sets itself up for a longer set piece, maybe.
Yeah, but none of the set pieces are ever very long.
Yeah.
None of them are. I mean, when I played this with my kids, and I played through quite a bit of with an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old, we usually did several set piees in a setting.
Sure.
Now, some of them were longer than others, but the longest ones at most were like 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that's short nature, and the fact that some of them are much shorter than that because they're structurally a very simple, you know, task, like leads to you know, rattling off several of these because of how easy it is to get going and how just like it flows well. And I think that's what I mean by pacing.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Wow. You know, I keep looking at this one to play with Liam because it's about, you know, the stuffed animals protecting the kid from the monster under the bed. But it sounds like it actually has more of a story going on than that.
You're going to have to come up with the Chucky expansion, the one that's like not safe for work.
It's about a kid. It's about a little kid growing up from, I would say, being about a 2-year-old to about a 8-year-old maybe. And the kid grows up through various developmental steps. And have you ever seen Inside Out?
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Like
it's a little like that. It's a little like Inside Out, except a lot of it takes place kind of in her dream world.
Okay, very cool, dude. That sounds like a pretty deep level of narrative to reach.
And Inside Out, we're talking to a girl that's just beginning to step towards puberty. Whereas in this one, it's like I said, a 2-year-old to an 8-year-old.
So much younger.
Yeah, like breaking free of like a dependence on their blankie type of thing.
Sure.
These are issues that a kid, I think, on the older end of that range will empathize a lot with what that is going on earlier on, and then the later ones will kind of hit home for them because of stuff they're currently going through.
Well, it's kind of like the same age as Toy Story 1, right? That Pixar where Toy Story where he's like, you know, he still probably, you know, believes that his toys are talking to each other when he leaves the house.
Yeah, I would say that. So,
yeah, it's an interesting system, definitely a cool format, and you know, with the fact that you're playing it with your family there, I like, you know, it when we tried it, it seemed like it had a pretty cool system of like the way the dice interacted, the way that you were drawing them out of the bag at the beginning of the round and trying to like work with what you drew. Like there was certainly some decisions to be made still.
Very nice. I see this on the rental shelf. Trent, I don't think I'm going to have to try this one out. You've got me convinced on this thing.
I mean, I don't expect it to be a really complex, deep game, but I think what it does really, really well. And I would say I was more impressed with it in the end than I was with Mice and Mystics.
Ooh, okay. I'm checking this out. I love playing Master Myst with my kids. This is going to definitely have to check this one out now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and do my next one because it seemed like the other fellas don't have much. So, what's the game that? Well, actually, it's I don't know if I call it a system now, but Arkham Horror, the card game, has still really impressed me, especially with Return to Night of the Zealot and the Forgotten Age, and in particular, what these two things have done has said, "Oh, you know those decks you think you've built really well? Wrong." the Forgotten Age, we only got through the 2 scenarios and completely lost the entire campaign after playing the second scenario. It is brutal. It is awesome. And it's really making me go back to do some better builds of some of the characters. So, and then Return of the Night of the Zealot, I thought we had under control, and we got destroyed by that thing. So this game continues to crank up the difficulty to make it challenging. The stories are still really well done. I'm still building decks with this thing. I don't even know how we're going to get through the Forgotten Age campaign at this point, because we're going to have to start over. And I'm like, should I even buy the Mythos packs at this point if we can't even get through the first 2 scenarios of the campaign? But we're going to try it again. I just wanted to mention that one as, you guys talk about 18XX. This one, you're going to be hearing about this one a lot. The Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm telling you, if you like deck building, you like cooperative games, I don't think anything has ever come close to this. You've been playing this one, Trent, haven't you?
Arkham Horror, the card game? Absolutely. I've played through the entire first and second cycles.
Have you tried the third one?
I decided I didn't want to play the third because I found that when I waited on the second until it was all done, I didn't like the first one having to wait for a month for a new pack.
You'll need the time for this third one. Trust me. You'll be like, oh, I've got to figure out how, okay, we got to play this again because we lost. And have you picked up the Return to the Night of the Zealot yet?
Yes, I have.
Oh, that just beefs up that crappy mini campaign that came with that core game. Oh, it makes it so cool. It really, and plus you get a nice little box to store stuff in, which doesn't hold everything, but it's still really nice. So that's one of my top games still. 2 years in a row, still Arkham Horror, still going strong. What's your next one, Trent?
I don't have any more positives that I want to talk about.
Okay. I can interject one that I think counts as
interject, please.
And that would be Crypto. I mean, I feel like so far this year, though, it really has been a light release. There's been a lot more of what's been hinted at coming later. But let me talk about Decrypto for a second, which is the like this year's version of Codenames. But I think everybody's going to find that, like, you know, I don't think Decrypto is going to hit as big as Codenames. And I don't know if that's like totally deserved that should, but it does feel like it doesn't quite have as an immediate intuitive qualities, you know, an intuitive nature like Codenames does. Codenames just has that sort of like, you can play Codenames as not, if you play the more passive, like the kind of clues, the ones that listen to clues and try to guess in Codenames, you can basically learn the game without even ever being taught the game, you know, especially if you're playing a larger group. I think that Decrypto is always, like, the way that you actually score points and the way that you actually play the game is more like, instead of connecting words to each other, it seems like it's more about trying to sort of create narratives that open up new interpretations of a word that are not going to be immediately clear to anybody who is not aware of what those words are. And the way that this works is you just have 4 words. Like, imagine if you were playing Codenames and you only had 4 words, but you had to refer to 3 of those words in every round, and you had to do them in a specific order. And you give essentially your Codenames clues for 3 words in every round, but in a specific order. And so you're like, you start trying to think outside of the box really quickly. Like, what am I going to refer to that's going to give it away to my opponent, or not give it away to my opponent, but give it away to my teammate? Which makes it, in my opinion, one that fits nicely into my collection. However, it can, like the nature of the game is that you have to have like progress in this game can be a little bit like, if everybody's evenly matched, you can just kind of advance along, and the game can end up going a lot longer than just a short party game. Like, I've played a game of this that was over an hour just because it went like 8 rounds, and every round people had to like think, and there was like multiple steps. So, but I really like it. I think it's a cool system. I think that it's kind of it's an eye-catching box. If you ever look at it on the shelf, it's made to look like a kind of a retro sci-fi sort of like a Turing machine sort of thing, you know, where it's just a bunch of like a code cracking hardware, and it looks kind of cool. So, but I enjoyed Decrypto. I first heard about it from Trent.
Nice. Decrypto. I've seen that played at Game Night. It's getting a lot of a buzz. People are enjoying it.
It doesn't quite have what Codenames has. It's tough to understand how points are scored. And I think I even kind of glazed over it, but like you have to mess up, or you have to like you have to mess up. You can look at it either way. I guess you have to mess up or be great. Either you mess up in communicating to your own teammates, or you mess up in communicating too clearly and the opponents picked it up and intercepts your code. So it really does feel like you're like intercepting and like together with your team trying to figure out what's right. And it's got that cool, like the who's giving clues rotates. So it's not like code names where it's like the same guy gives clues every single game. But I know that Andy immediately checked out as soon as he heard the word code names, but I've tried to use it at least. I'd say I've said code names about 9 or 10 times here, maybe 15. So I just wanted to say that's for you, Andy.
What? I wasn't listening.
No, he was thinking about his disappointing games. I think I can see it in his eyes. So I think it's time to move to our disappointing games of our games that's disappointed the most in 2018. Who wants to go first on this one? I have a nice transition if you want me to go first.
Yeah, CC, you go ahead.
Okay, so I was on the fence on this one because we are actually still enjoying the game despite the company's botched attempts of publishing it. And I'm talking about the Munchkin collectible card game.
Oh.
Now, there have been some significant issues with this game. We got the second expansion. They screwed up the way they packed boosters. So you're supposed to get like one random card in the pack. The first booster pack we opened of Desolation of Blarg, we had 3 rare cards in the thing.
Nice.
We went online to look it up, and it turned out when they sorted the cards in the booster, they completely mess it up. So there are some packs that are all commons. There are some packs that have more than 1 rare, and it's just a mess. The card quality is questionable at best. Trying to figure out what's rare and what's rare, super rare. They have like X's and stuff. It's all over the place. But that being said, despite Steve Jackson's games botching this thing, Kate has really enjoyed it. We've been playing it quite a bit. It's not gaining any traction in this area. In fact, most of the places we buy these booster from are like, yeah, we're not going to get this anymore. So we're probably going to have to start buying boxes of boosters. This is going to thrill my wife to death. She hates that crap. But that being said, it is an Eric Lang game, and that design shows through the game, and it makes it really good. It's accessible to children my daughter's age 14. I think this could have really given Pokemon a run for its money if it was done right. Unfortunately, it's not. But so I was really on the fence. I've been disappointed what the company is doing, but I'm still enjoying the game. It's something Kate wants to play every week. So that's my biggest disappointment. I wish they'd be handling it better because it is a good game. But unfortunately, I have so many questions about this point. I'm going to be keeping an eye at Gen Con because they're supposedly holding tournaments. We're going to see if this thing can stick around. But for what it is, it's a good game, and I've been enjoying playing with my daughter, so that counts for something. That's mine. Trent, what have you got?
I'm going to do mine because I have a feeling some people are going to be irritated.
We're always irritated.
Okay. The Mind is one of the worst games I have ever played.
Please share. Why? What makes it bad?
Really bad? Okay, so I played this once, and I played it in one session in which we played like 3 or 4 games of it. And all you do in this game is you're all just taking turns looking at each other and playing cards in order. Okay, so like you can play this with a copy of the game. Or any numbered deck that goes from like 1 to 100, you can play this with. You need a few other tokens because they let you like make up for mistakes that you make. But in essence, what you're doing is everybody has a hand of cards, and you start the first round. Everybody has 1 card, and all you need to do is play them in order. But you can't communicate with each other at all. So like Joe would play the 4, and then I would need to play the 8, and Andy would need to play the 20, and TC would need to play the 83, and we win! Hooray! And we go on to the next round. Next round is everybody has a hand of 2 cards, and you do the same thing. And 3 cards, and you do the same thing. And 4 cards until you lose. There are a few tokens you earn that basically let you, oops, we messed up, or something like that. But that's the core of the game. So here's what you do in the game, and this works no matter what. You start counting in your head. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, like roughly a second a pop. I'm counting a little bit fast. And then when your count comes up and you see that number in your hand, you play the card. You don't need to communicate at all. You all just sit there and do it. If everybody can count at roughly the pace of a second, one number per second, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, that pace, you'll be fine. The first couple rounds, all you're doing is really locking in the pace that other people are counting at, so that by the end of the second round or so, everybody's counting at the exact same pace. So then you just win. That's the whole game. It's stupid.
Except though,
completely dumb.
From what I've heard, is it tells you in the rule book not to do that.
If you can't, that is the dumbest thing ever. You can. So the only way to play this game is if you police your own thoughts within your head.
It is. No,
this is number
is
one on the buzz from Origins right now.
From what I've heard,
stupid.
From what I've heard in the rule book too, it says there's like a part of it that says, do not read this area of the book, because if you do, you will know how to break the game.
Then the game is already broken. Then the game is already broken. That's
exactly. But like in that section, it says don't count. So if you independently came up with the idea of counting on your own, which is what happened to the guy who was talking about this.
Yeah, it's the obvious thing.
We just count. And he didn't look at and then he looked back at the rules. He's like, well, this game seems stupid. Then he looked at the rules. He's like, oh, so how the heck was I supposed to know that rule when you told me not to read it?
Yeah.
It says do not. It says basically when you're learning the rule book, it says try playing this now without reading the rest, and then
and then
basically the strategy that you come up with is let's count, and that's expressly forbidden.
That's cheating. Yeah,
the first thing you have to do is unlearn.
It's like Risk Legacy where it says don't open this. Well, of course I'm going to open this stupid thing. You kidding me? I paid $60 for this game.
By the time that you're done with it,
but the thing is. Something that seems really obvious to do. So there's something fundamentally wrong with the game. If there's something, obviously you're going to do it. Anyone that thinks about this for 15 seconds will probably start doing this. And it doesn't take much for you to all get in sync with the counting. I mean, without communicating one whit, you all get in sync with the counting because of when people are playing cards. If you're paying attention, I can get my counting in sync with my 8-year-old. And then there's no game. It's a counting game. And so the only way around this is to say, oh, this completely obvious strategy of you actually thinking about it is banned. There's something fundamentally wrong with the game. But it's just garbage. I have no interest in ever playing it again.
It's kind of interesting. Like, what about? I don't know. I haven't played it, so I don't know. I don't know. Like in automatic behavior is what's the issue, and I'm trying to come up with a sort of comparison game where there's a game where you have a very natural automatic behavior that you think is supposed to happen, and then the game does not do it prohibits that, I know what is that. Exploding kittens walking away from the table.
I'm trying to remember. So you count. Okay, I'm maybe.
So in what is it like? So in the game, just to compare it to the game, which is another card playing game where you're trying to essentially figure out how what's the best card for your party to play so that it doesn't go up too much, right? You want to try to get every card in, every card played, but then players are then individually managing their hands. The rule in that game is you can't use exact numbers, right? Because if you set exact numbers, you just be like, all right, so I'm going to play my 24, and then Andy'd be like, well, if you play your 24, I've got my 14, and then he's got his 4, and then we play, and now we're all the way back to the beginning, because you can kind of do that. You can, see what paths you have, and so the game expressly forbids you to talk using exact numbers. Now, Trent, how does that compare to this game preventing you from counting? It's saying you can't use exact numbers. Well, that would be a strong strategy if you were to use it, but it's a cheating strategy.
But it's not preventing you from thinking through things. Mm-hmm. I don't like the thought police aspect of the rules of the mind.
Okay. Yeah,
that rule book feels to me like it's being the thought police on you, and I don't like that in games. I don't want a game telling me how I'm supposed to think about it.
Yeah, well, but you have to think about it like that because otherwise the game is not a game. It's not even it's just an activity of just waiting for your turn,
Yeah, so it's like if we pretend that we can't count, then there's possibly a game here. But in reality, human beings can count, so there's really no game. That's how I feel about it. Maybe there's something interesting there, but the way they did it is wrong.
Wow. So we already got the stupid game for 2018. Okay, we're going to see if we can top this. We're halfway there. Let's see if something else goes up in 2018 that can top it. How about you, Joe? What's disappointed you so far this year?
Oh, disappointment. I think I saw that coming with Trent's. Like, as soon as he started saying it's like, yes, I know what game he's talking about. Yeah, it was weird. It was like I get so used to, as soon as somebody says like, I bet this is going to upset some people, I'm always like, I'm probably the affected group. Like, I just immediately start to sort of like, pad myself and just get ready. It's like, but yeah, that one was pretty easy to bounce off of. So I'm just going to say that, like, I haven't been disappointed enough by anything like in 2018, but then at the same time, like, maybe that's the disappointing thing in and of itself, is that there hasn't been all that much that's really caused me to like raise my eyebrows to just like across the room. I've seen everything that's coming out. It's like, okay, well, this kind of makes sense. And I feel like we see so many things that are like, here's another, like, we're going to remake a game and we're just going to put this extra stuff in it. And like, sometimes I get excited if I like the base game. Otherwise I'm just kind of like, well, this would have to fix the game for me to really get behind it. And that's not something I'm really counting on. I don't know. There's not much that has been seen, that's actually happened so far. But I'm looking forward to a few expansions, like the Great Western Trail one.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently there is that CO2 is supposed to be coming out that adds like a cooperative element to Vital Lacerda, which that has me pretty excited. But aside from that, like, I'm not too impressed. I would just say in general, the lineup of games at this point, especially for the Gen Con, like, what is the big Gen Con release? Like, what actually is even coming out? Like, there's so many currently running Fantasy Flight products that I just like, I don't know what's even, what is going to be the big Fantasy Flight thing coming out? What's it going to be, like an expansion to Twilight Imperium 4? I mean, I don't think anybody would be all that disappointed if that came out, but I also don't think people would be like that excited. I feel like that's the type of game that. Well, go ahead, Trent.
FFG never announces what their big cool thing at Gen Con is until like the day before it.
Yeah.
They hold their cards until the last moment so that it has buzz at the convention. They do that every year. They do that. So
that wasn't Fallout last year's kind of.
No, TI4 really was last year.
Oh, that's right. How can I forget that? Yeah.
I think Fallout also came out though, and I haven't heard much about that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm willing to bet they're going to announce another LCG the way those have been, since they've lost like Netrunner.
They lost Warhammer Conquest and Netrunner. Boom, boom. So
yeah.
They ended Star Wars because it was like their worst one they ever designed.
Yeah, which is that one was kind of odd.
I feel like their goal with that is like, release new LCG. Does this sell better or worse than current LCGs? Whichever one doesn't, drop that one.
Well, I was pretty sure Star Wars was due.
All of those were due to licenses.
Yeah.
I think that they're losing the Star Wars license.
Yeah,
really?
They just even with Legion going as of this, I wonder if that's doing well for them.
I think they're gonna pump as much Legion as they can until they lost their license. I think they're losing it.
That's a bold prediction. That'd be interesting to see. What about you, Andy? What train wreck have you survived this year?
Actually, with mine, I was thinking about this. There's not like one game I played that I particularly hated or anything like that. But the one thing that's probably drove me more nuts and annoyance this year than anything else was the Kickstarter for BIOS Genesis upgrade, BIOS Megafauna 2, and John Company.
Oh God,
my God, that
was painful.
that was a monstrosity. Yeah, that's Trent getting the game I ordered before me that he didn't even want. and then being told, oh, keep it. And then the company going, oh, we broke into dealer stock, so we may not actually have enough of the correct games to send out. And then finally getting that, and then finding out my BIOS Genesis upgrade kit is actually currently in Australia instead of the United States where it needed to be. And then it ended up at Funnigan, who shipped it up. Oh my God, it was that.
Yeah,
That was
it
the
was
most frustrating thing.
It was a very interesting ordeal to get my copy of John Company, but dang it, I wanted it bad enough. I jumped through like 50 million hoops to get that sucker in my hands.
Well, it was driving people nuts because people would be like, email Phil Eklund, like, what's going on? He's like, contact Ship Naked. Ship Naked's like, we didn't call Phil Eklund.
Yeah, it's like this big, it feels like, what?
It's just
that.
And I don't think most of it's on Phil. And I think, unfortunately, that's done some damage to Sierra Madre, because I know there was a situation where, like, they weren't going to pay him for their screw up. Like, they were basically like, yeah, we gave out a bunch of games people didn't actually order, but yeah,
that was such a confluence of bad luck, because just when you think everything was settled, you find like Funnigan Games is like they're out shipping stuff. They're closing the warehouse out, right? It's just like one dominant, just one thing after another. It's just like this amazing car wreck. You're like, can this get any worse? Oh, nope, here we go. Something else.
Yeah.
That was bizarre. And
at least I have a suspicion that this has delayed Sierra Madre's catalog, because from what I heard from earlier interviews, like, their plan initially was BIOS Genesis, next year Megafauna 2, next year Origins 2. However, we're at that year and Origins 2 is not slated. I completely think that that's going to be now a 2019 game. Like, I know Phil did not, gain the profits from that he was expecting because of all those screw ups. Which I guess on his end, you get what you pay for. Like, you went with the crappy company, man, to save money. That's but I know the new ones he's working with Panda and more reputable shippers, so that should not happen. But yeah, that was
painful.
A screw up of unbelievable.
Yeah, that's just what we could figure out. I mean, that's just what we could just piece together what happened. Who knows what was really going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, like at one point, like, I was truly convinced that they were just like, oh, we accidentally gave out the wrong games. Oh, it's going to cost us too much to ship them back. Just pull copies from the dealer's stock. Yeah, so, that way it'll get to the individuals. We don't worry about the company. Like, it's just so much of it that you were looking at, you're like, are you guys like professionals or
something else?
Like, what is your job actually? Because obviously you suck at logistics, like, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Oh wow, yeah. Wow, yeah, that was a very few interesting months of my life right there.
And there were people that never got their copies. And like, there's no recourse for them.
Yeah, that would be interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on it. I'm not sure how much that.
Meanwhile, other people sold their freebie copy and made a profit on it.
Exactly. Like, oh my God.
No one on this podcast, Trent.
And then even that, they open them up and there's like a not insignificant percentage of games where pieces were just missing.
Yeah,
but I've never seen a dealer before, basically, or a publisher come out and, like, in an official press release say, count your components carefully, please. Oh God, yeah, that's been my biggest disappointment.
Haven't they worked with Panda? Hasn't Phil worked with Panda in the past? Isn't that where like,
I don't know whether it was Phil's end or it's really weird because he was working with another company that was running the Kickstarter kind of thing, and I think it was like Alley Cat Games or something. So I don't know how much of this is on Phil or how much of it's on them. But yeah, it's just like every step of it just felt like people were sucking. Like, immediately, yeah. Well, like further on in that, like I had to be sent the rule book for the BIOS Genesis upgrade from Phil because they screwed up the one that was supposed to go in the box at the printer.
That's pretty
So
bad.
it was, yeah, just screwed up to high heaven. But yeah, I know he's gone through Panda this time, and apparently things are scheduled to run much better. Like, I truly hope the Neanderthal Greenland does, or like I could see Sierra Madre just saying, I hate everybody. Like, he's basically like, 0 for 2 in Kickstarters associated with his products that have done well. You've got the High Frontier one before this, which was an oh my god.
Yeah, I heard.
And then, and now this one that was just like oh my god. It was an oh my god, but at least there was communication, whereas High Frontier was an oh my god, what is even happening?
No one knows.
Nobody knows. Yeah, so my hope is, honestly, actually, the newest one, Neanderthal and Greenland, everything looks like they've been great with communication, and it looks like it will. There's a good chance that backers will get their copies even before Essen. So that's pretty cool. But the Sierra Madre, the BIOS Genesis Megafauna 2 Kickstarter, just oh my god.
Well,
let's
put that behind us now. Let's put this behind us. I'm running behind on my curfew. So let's wrap it up with some hype. Trent, I want to hear about this one because I've only heard rumblings about it.
I assume you're talking about the Eclipse 2nd Edition Kickstarter?
Yes. What's going on with this sucker?
Okay, so they're basically just making a 2nd edition of Eclipse. It looks pretty similar to the base game with a few of the little bits from the expansion, it looks like. Although this Kickstarter is really... Yeah, it's got nicer components and a few things. And the original Eclipse wasn't bad at all in that regard. But this
it did have all the plastic pieces were like identical from one to the next, and they were like the same ones from Eminent Domain. Yeah. And it's funny, but they were originally in Eminent Domain, later on in Eclipse, and yet Eminent Domain's designer Seth Jaffe gets the questions about
gets to fling the crap about all that. Yeah, we talked to him about it. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, like there's more molds and stuff like that. But and also another thing that's really nice is it comes with like the trays that people often use when they play Eclipse, because otherwise setting up your player board's a bit on the miserable side because you have to cover up things. You have to cover up things with 36 cubes. Yeah. However, there are a couple things they're doing odd. One, the price is pretty high on it.
Like how high?
$99 for the base game, and like
that's how much it did cost. It was $100. It
was a pricey game.
Yeah, it's better what's in the box. But what's really weird is they have an expansion, but they're not really telling anyone what's in the expansion, and the expansion's supposed to be 50 more.
It's like probably, is it like a stretch goal type thing, or just they're not really clear on it. They say, oh, you're going to get this expansion for 50 more, but they're not really telling anyone what's in the expansion yet. And they're adding like stretch goals to the expansion, but they're not saying what's in the expansion. It's really weird.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, the way they're doing
money at us, we'll tell you what it is eventually.
Yeah. Pay us and we'll tell you what you're getting.
Does the 2nd edition eclipse the 1st edition?
I think it'll look better. I'm glad that it comes with the trays rather than having to get them off, the secondhand market. I just think the expansion, or at least in their communication so far on the Kickstarter, has been a little
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on. So I like Eclipse. I think that what the base game of the 2nd edition looks good. I don't know what's going on at the expansion on the Kickstarter.
We'll have to get an update on. You have to update us when you figure out what it is.
I will do that.
Okay, Joe, you've got Monopoly Deal?
Yeah. So everybody's been talking about this game, Monopoly Deal. It's like a 15-minute card game. I saw it on sale on Amazon for like $3.50, and I was like, you know what? I'll give this one a shot. It actually came out in 2008, but I've heard people say, like, I've heard people, like, generally mass market gamers, but if you're gonna say like this game feels like Monopoly but plays in 15 minutes, like, you know, I want to at least see what's at work there, you know. And it doesn't have the super low rating you'd expect from a Monopoly game on Board Game Geek. You know, it's not a bad rated game. It's like 6.26. So I mean, nothing fantastic, but like I'm looking forward to trying this one. So, but my biggest and I didn't put this in the hype there, but probably the game, and I know this came out in 2017, but it was like towards the end of 2017, I believe, or at least I didn't play it till 2018, and that's Near and Far. And the expansion of Near and Far, Amber Mines, I'm really excited to play that one. It looks to add a lot to like the base actions that you can take in the sort of like town where you're taking actions in between adventuring. And so that was always like, the town was full of really simple, easy to teach things, but a lot of them kind of petered out or were only situationally used. And I think that this is going to make all the spots a little bit like there's more things, more variety between what you can do at each one and the lengths that you can take each one in terms of like being able to push further in what you're doing in that area. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. And that is the expansion to Near and Far called Amber Mines.
Andy, you have any hype? I don't
yes,
see any.
It did occur to me. Monday, Container will be in my hands. The new one.
With a big...
Is this the first of the huge over supersized things? Like, I mean, this is airing at the same time as the Cool Mini or Not Kickstarter that's like literally the size of a small child. One of its plastic pieces is 2 feet tall.
Now, actually, and the ships like are not quite as big as like some people I think were kind of making them out to be or thinking. But yeah, it is the jumbo edition, quote unquote, whatever. Which actually, I listened to an interview of these guys talking about it, and like it kind of made sense why the ships ended up the way they did, because their big thing was the containers for the original game were really, really tiny, very fiddly, kind of hard to deal with. And so they had to make them bigger. Well, if you make them bigger, that stands to reason then that you then have to make the ships bigger to hold them. So it was kind of around that. But I'm really looking forward to how the investment bank kind of changes things. Like it's supposed to have this investment banks thing, which kind of stabilizes the economy a little bit. It's a little bit harder to just crash the economy, or it's supposed to like hem people in a bit. If like a bunch of people are trying to like charge ridiculously stupid prices, eventually this investment bank mechanism will start undercutting them. So it kind of gives you a way to get things and do things that are a little bit different. Other than that, it works basically the same way, and I really, really like Container. And I fully intend to use the phrase, I like big boats, and I cannot lie during every game of it.
Of course you have to. My hype is I actually held this game in my hand. I'm picking up tomorrow. I finally got my copy of Fort Sumter in. I'm very excited about this one. This is Mark Herman's new design. It's the first in what he's calling the Final Crisis series, I believe.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Yeah, I think Trent's already played this one.
Yes, I would say it's like a lighter. It's like, and it's in the same vein of like 1960 and Twilight Struggle, but it's on the much lighter end of that.
Yeah, it's like supposed to play in like 30 to 40 minutes. It's it's Mark Herman revisiting his card-driven game system that he created in We the People or Washington's War. And instead of making a game that's more complete, he basically went from like what was that? With Empire of the Sun to this. So he like stripped everything down to make a quick playing 40-minute light war game. And I am just so excited. I've seen the designs on this one. I've been reading up on it. Carissa's been really excited to play it. I expect we're going to be getting a review of this one up pretty quick, but I'm very excited to finally play this one. And I'm going to have to kick back Cataclysm a bit because I'm going to probably hit this one hard.
Very cool, TC. So, but this is like the first of the final conflicts.
Yeah, it's like he said. He called it. I think I I'm not certain, but he called it the Final Crisis series. So it's the first in the series that's going to use this design that other, kind of like Coin, you know, other designers are going to use this design space to use different historical settings. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. And to play this one, I'm just, yes, Mark Herman. I'm a self-professed Hermanite. So bring it.
He's like the Herminator.
Yeah, the Herminator. Oh, guys, I've got to call it a night. I got to go rescue my son from a babysitter. I am 8 minutes late. So we're going to call this a night, gentlemen.
Thanks everybody for being here. And catch us next week on the next episode of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly.
All right.